technology was developed was in these underground chambers in the Andes, and Jacques Vallée did a survey in the 70s of all UFO sightings and found that like 80% of all UFO sightings are in South America. If you Google,
good point. That's true.
If you Google Chile UFO or Santiago UFO, you will see a series of videos taken of 30 or 40 craft flying over Santiago in December of 2008. All through 2008 and 2007, there were thousands of UFO sightings in Argentina and Chile, and they pretty much started vanishing. What's also interesting about this is that's just about the time that the Chilean army began entering into these tunnel systems, a story that has been completely suppressed in the United States, which is big news in South America. And I believe they got in there and they found their hyperdimensional equipment and they were going to back engineer it. And the one thing the Aryans do not want is for us to uncover their technology, because then we will be equal with them, because they have nothing on us except for the technology. They're just like we are. They're just human beings. And they are leaving us behind, going to Mars to save themselves from this, what they believe is a coming coronal mass ejection, and they've literally wrecked the planet trying to get out of here. And we're kind of left here with a wrecked planet, and we've got to recover. I also want to emphasize that just because they believe that this is going on doesn't mean it's really going on. They could be completely fooled, too. So just because they believe that there's coronal mass ejections coming and that they have to get out of here doesn't necessarily mean any of this is true. So it's just that I'm just reporting what they believe and what they found. And these people, and I use that word, they are people. They've been here and they've been ruling us for a long time. And they've been cruel to us, to be honest with you. And they don't really care that much about us. And now they're leaving, and we have to come to grips with the fact that there's no central organizing principle anymore, that civilization actually is not the natural state. Civilization is something that is created in the Aryan age. And what's amazing is these Puranic texts target the date of the beginning of this, and it's 7 years away from the opening date of the Mayan long count, 3114. BC.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think it was the 2012 date, not the 24 date.
That's the conclusion I came to. A French Freemason, and Freemasons are part of this thing, named La Plagnon, he went to Mexico, and I think he uncovered this, and he raced back to Europe to tell them about the long count calendar, and they freaked. And they hit the pedal to the metal, and everything since then has been, and this is, early 20th century has just been a gigantic manipulation, a magician's trick to hide, what's really up their sleeves from us. And they're the ones who cast about all these stories of aliens and things. And if you read Joseph Farrell's new book, Roswell and the Reich, I mean, it's damning. It's a damning book about Roswell and about what they're really hiding and what Corso was really saying in his book. And I just came away from that book. I wrote to Joseph. I said, "My God, this is one of the most important books of the last 10 years because you just nail it completely."
Well, Joseph's been a regular on Coast to Coast, Jay, as you well know. Jay, what does Stanley Kubrick's 2012 have to do with this? How does that fit into the equation?
Well, Kubrick, he knows what's going on. He was rubbing shoulders with Herman Oberth, who was one of the people who started, or one of the first German scientists at NASA. Arthur C. Clarke, I believe, knew a lot about this. I don't know how. Maybe he was a member of the Freemasonic societies. But he wanted to tell us what was really going on in A Space Odyssey, and he did tell us. And he was very concerned about the truth, and I believe he knew the truth. I not only believe that he understood what was really going on as far as what I've just told you, but he tried to tell us about the secret society in his last film, Eyes Wide Shut. Interestingly enough, one of the films that Kubrick was working on in the early 90s, but he abandoned it, was a film called The Aryan Papers, which was a film about a poor Jewish historian who was being forced, from what I've heard, being forced to write the history of the Aryan race while being serving time in a concentration camp. And so all this stuff, he knows. He's very high up in these circles, and he was obsessed with Nazi memorabilia. His entire house was filled with all sorts of papers from the Nazis and symbols of the Black Sun and all the rest. There's one other thing I want to emphasize before, so I don't make anyone misunderstand me. I don't think that the Aryans are good guys. I'm actually rather angry at them. I think that if this is all true, that they've really left us adrift and they've destroyed our planet. And I hope someone takes a pop shot at them as they're leaving. I hope Obama does. So I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm promoting this as a good thing. I think that if this is true, it's a bad thing, and I say good riddance to them. so. I just want to say that, nor do I want anyone to think that white people are some exalted race or even a race that should be killed or be angry at because they helped cause this. All of this is irrelevant to the major story, and I ask people to please read your history, read up on some other things, and find out the truth. I just don't want to backlash against anyone because of what I'm reporting here. I just want the truth to get out. As for Kubrick, his entire work, his entire 13 films, are really one long film. And he is telling us a story about the secret history of the human race. And he's doing it in a way that combines icons of pop culture, film, and cinema, and puts it together so that once you start going into his films, you begin cracking the whole scheme. So 2001 is about a group of, or about a intervention into human affairs by a higher intelligence or a group of off-planet beings who teach us about technology. A Clockwork Orange is about how the government can mind control you to, do whatever it is that they want. Barry Lyndon is about the bloodlines, the Aryan bloodlines, and how no matter how much you want to be in those bloodlines, unless you were born into them, you can never be part of them. And so Barry Lyndon is eventually, even though he tries to rise up into their culture, he's eventually rejected by them. The Shining is, of course, in my view, the secret story of Stanley and how he helped fake the moon landings. Eyes Wide Shut, which we have yet to ever see his original edit because it was edited by Warner Brothers after he died. And even though they claim that the new version is the version that he wanted, I have seen clips of the original version, and they're not in the new version. So again, they don't really call it the director's cut, so which that means they're probably telling us the truth. It is not the director's cut. And the inner story of Eyes Wide Shut is about these elitists and how they have certain magical practices and occult rituals, and Tom Cruise is not allowed in. And he accidentally gets in, and his life is threatened, and even they...
What was the password, by the way, Jay? You remember it?
I do. Fidelio.
You got it.
Well, I've only seen the film about 300 times. So, but there's incredible continuity errors in Eyes Wide Shut, which Stanley would never have done. And so I think they cut certain scenes out which may have told too much. And I believe that Arthur C. Clarke is part of this, and he's up there in the top echelon of these things. I find it an astonishing coincidence that in the book, 2001: A Space Odyssey, they go to the moon of Saturn where they find the monolith, which is Iapetus, which is Japhet, who is one of the sons of Sargon, who is Sauron in Lord of the Rings. And I think that they knew, and when Hoagland uncovered his work on Iapetus and proved that it's an awfully peculiar planet or moon of Saturn, I think that he may have been onto their technologies and things. And Saturn also plays a part of this. In 2001, the astronauts were originally going to Saturn, but Kubrick at least publicly declared that he couldn't make it Saturn because he couldn't make the rings believable enough. Now, Kubrick could do anything. I think that the powers that be came in and said, no, you're getting a little too close, because Saturn is a strange planet and maybe some kind of hyperdimensional construct with its hexagonal cloud patterns at the North Pole and some of the other strange things that have been found on the moons of Saturn. It's a strange thing. And for people who don't understand a lot of this, they really need to read the work of Tom Van Flanderen, the astronomer who came up with the whole exploding planet theory. The asteroid belt is an exploded planet. And according to the work that Hoagland's been doing and a few others, it could have been an occupied planet with oceans and everything. And this might even explain how, like, fishes fall from the sky. It happened in Australia about a month ago. Now, this is the oceans of Tiamat freezing after it got exploded, and the animals freezing inside these giant snowballs, which eventually some hit the Earth, and the bodies of the fish fall down onto the planet. These are, comets may actually be the oceans of this planet, frozen and drifting in wild orbits through the solar system. We know the solar system got really whacked a few million years ago, and everything is thrown off its base here. And all of this is, a lot of people are pursuing this and trying to figure out the story. I'm just bringing in the Piranha text, and I'm also bringing in the films of Stanley Kubrick to show that he's trying to tell us this story also. And he's doing it in a way that doesn't offend the financial people who he needs to finance his multi-million-dollar films. So the films of Kubrick, I could do a whole show on them, and maybe someday we will. I could take each film and show you and deconstruct it and show you that Stanley is telling us a larger story under the veneer of just a regular film. And quite amazing story it is, I must say.
He was a genius. Let's go to the phones.